Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session with Chat with Chamindra. And today I have a very special guest in Isura Silva. You might know him. You must have seen him on LinkedIn, on Twitter. He was really active 1 year, 1.5 years back. Then he slowly went silent. I was wondering what happened to him. Then I actually personally messaged him, gave him a call, and asked if he was okay. It was good to hear that he was okay and he was doing well. He's like I've got to know him a few years back actually. I can't say the exact number of years, but we first met when I got to volunteer in Sarvodaya Fusion with a few volunteers with Udara, Dharmasena, and Isura was like a mentor to me those days because I was just finding my yards in the world of IT and the technology as I was just starting to work, and he was there as a mentor and supported me, and he helped me to conduct some sessions to schools out of Colombo, and that helped me to gain knowledge and strength and self confidence to present in front of a large number of people. So that's something I still have gratitude for him to helping me on that path. And then there was social media Colombo, social club media Colombo. We had there was gatherings those days. I remember it was at Excel World. That's where I first met him personally, and we were able to interact and meet him. He and his lovely wife, and that is how we got to know. And that relationship slowly got stronger and stronger through all the social media platforms. And here we are. And today I'm really happy and honored to have him on my show as a guest. And I think after a bit of a silence period, and I'm so happy to have him back. So other than that, he's a how can I say? He's a mentor. He's a life coach. He's a digital transformation coach. He advises businesses. He is a consultant. So a lot of faces to the person you're seeing now. So, but today uh, we are having a different kind of a chat. Before we go to the topic, Isura, why don't you give a small introduction about yourself to start off with?
Thank you, Chamindra, for having me here. I really appreciate what you're doing, and I've been to a few episodes you have done, and it is really commendable. I like the flow. I like the way that you get the guests to reflect, and I just got to know that you're doing it for yourself, for your own self-reflection, and try to give something to the audience as well. I really appreciate that. Thank you for having me. I think you have done a greater job at explaining about myself. I think it would be good, like, you can just ask me questions away. I think that will then gradually get into, the things that we, as you mentioned, like, connect and cross in different intersections of our lives and how that affects, what we do and why it is always important to have an open mind. So, yeah, you can ask me any question you want. Yeah, I think that would be better.
Great, super. So, uh, no, that's where I want to come across as well. Now, we know about all your, business, what your work you're doing, your hobbies and all. But I really want you to take a reflection about yourself, right? And just give the audience an idea about who you are, which, from sometimes we don't reflect to ourselves, right? We don't reflect and see, think, who am I? Who am I actually as a person, as a husband or a friend or a mentor? Sometimes we don't take that deep look into ourselves. Have you tried to given some that thought process about yourself? All this rat race of what we are running through every day. Have you taken some space out and given some reflection about that, and have a thought about that? And what sort of results have you come up with? Shall we start with that? Because today's session is, friends, is more of a something that we are trying to help you to build something to learn about yourself, because we are always doing this rat race, work, 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 sometimes work life balance, and it's taking a lot of, time and stress
Mm.
into ourselves. So we are trying to have a very stress-free session and give you something to learn about that. So Isura, how about you? What
Okay.
what do you think about? Yeah.
Okay. I tend to get a lot of flack from my friends as well that, the exact thing that you said, that I take life and reflect on it seriously, that I shouldn't do that much. So yeah, the thing about my approach to creating space for myself and for internal reflection has changed throughout the years. If I look at, I'm now 43, if I look at when I was 20, what I was trying to do with life and what I wanted in life and how I reflected about life has changed dramatically. I tend to think that it is for the good, but it might not be the same path for each and every person out there, right? So the most important thing is to try to find out what exactly works for each and every person. So if I'm going to say that, at 20 I did this, at 43 I'm doing this now, and this is exactly the phase and process that someone should go through, that is absolutely not true. So each and every person needs to find their own space for self-reflection and try to find a framework that works for them. So when I was 25, always I wanted to read a lot, watch documentaries, and trying to make sense of what this world is. There was this insane curiosity inside me that, said like, always doubting whether, the path that is always trodden is the path, whether it is that the path, right? So I read books. I have an insatiable appetite to read books, any books that land on my hand. And then I realized like there are a lot of ways for people to live life, right? What fits for me will not fit for you, Chamindra, right? So that is why I hear people listen to all these podcasts and all these motivational people and inspiration, and nothing seems to be working, right? And some wants to have instant gratification, some want to have instant kind of an injection to make them happy and feel contented. What I believed when I was 25 is that a lot of people told me like, this is the path you have to take. That is the path you have to take. So I could not figure it alone. And I always had these doubts. So what I did was, when I was 25, I will hang out with people who is age 35 to see what this prescribed path is leading to happy people. So there were good people who have candidly, openly showed me like, this is what it is. And I figured that, you know, this is not what I want at 35. So if I go in the same path that the world wants me to go, and at 35 I would be this. So at 35 I used to hang out with people who are 45, and then I realized there are some paths that does not lead to what I want. So when I say what I want, it is different for other people. So that is why you have to take these with a pinch of salt for your own sake. Try not to lead others' life. That is the most important thing. It is very hard in this world, in this society nowadays, with so many influx of pressure coming from different ways, from family, from work. Even when you scroll your phone, you are always bombarded with things that you need to be this and that. So now I'm around 45. I listen to people who are 40, 55 and try to figure out, all these discussions about retirement. Like, how do you want to retire? 99% of the things that I hear does not fit with me, right? So it doesn't mean that I have to go in that path. It doesn't mean that I have to, criticize them. Okay. The important part is there are people who are openly and willingly tell the truth, not the surface level things that you see in people's life. Like, for example, you mentioned about me that I always look for things and a self reflective man, but it is on the surface, on the outside. But what goes within, in my mind, the struggles I have, nobody knows. Right? So we have to really, really understand that. Like, for example, about 2 days ago, I had a very tough situation. I struggled internally. I mean, nobody in this world will know. So when you say that, I kind of like, always a self-reflective and always try to find a different path, and I may be happy on the surface, which is like if you go on social media also, like, you will find people like me tell something profound, but inside is what matters. Like, outside we always try to project something that we are not always, because the society wants us to project in a way that acceptable for people, but it is not the case always. So the struggle is real, so you need to face that struggle with an open mind and try to learn from that. So that is the first thing I want to say, that there are enough resources out there on the internet, enough people who are trying to tell you how to live a good life, how to be wealthy, how to be happy, how to be healthy, all these things. But at the end of the day, we need to have a proper understanding of what really I want, and to have a framework that works for you, and not try to compare with others' progress and be miserable in life. It is very important. And sometimes we tend to standardize people, thinking that this is that kind of a person, this is this kind of people, and he's poor and she's rich, and we're trying to always figure out role models for ourselves and try to follow a path that is given by always the media, right? Media is very powerful right now. So one of the things I've done, and I think I am happy about, is that I always wanted to, like, remove the influence as much as possible from what is out there, what is trying to condition us. So that is something that I'm happy about, but it is probably not the case for others, right? I have to have a disclaimer like that when I start this conversation. Yeah.
I was thinking all the superheroes we have talked from childhood, Spider-Man or anyone. Even just got my thought about the film Mask as well. You wear that, that cape or the mask or anything, and you show some your different side. But even every superhero and every person, deep inside, they are facing their own storms and turmoil. And to get away, they are using that, that power. When the writers wrote those stories, they are showing humans a way that if you try to be someone else, you can forget what your real problems are, and you're showing a different face to the public, but deep inside your problem still exists,
Mm.
but you just want to get away from those problems
Yes.
to show, and you do a different path to show that. I mean, that thought process came to my mind when you were speaking like that. So
Mm. Mm.
okay, so then I get this question: are we really happy? I mean, are we really are human beings really happy from the day they are born to the last breath? Are we just doing that rat race and just doing the things that the society and the world has defined us to do? Are we really happy? That's something of a reflection that we need to think about. I mean, when you are just sitting and having a cup of tea or something, you have to reflect on that, because sometimes
Yeah.
I also that thought process from the day we are born till when we die. We are working on a system, right? We are
Yeah.
doing a system, working according to system, and once that system stops, we go away. Have we stopped that system and try to reflect back?
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
I,
Yeah,
I mean, that is something I always do, and I have so many data points to discuss with you. Let me ask you a question. I mean, what is happiness to you? What is a happy moment to you?
I was going to ask the same thing for you.
Okay, okay. I'll tell you what is happiness to me. Okay.
So no, as my no. What makes me happy is doing this is one something, and of course spending time with my family, with the little ones. I mean, whatever you do outside will give you. I don't think that is permanent. I mean, it's a very temporary thing, right?
Mm.
But the people who are with you from the start to end, the people who you spend most of the time with, those people, I think, I believe, will always be there for you, whatever happens.
Mm.
So when you are with them, you feel very calm, very peaceful, and we are open also.
Mm. Mm.
That is the happy place that most, from my point of view, that's my happy place.
Okay, let me ask you a question. So, all these people that you said that they are going to make you happy, are those people going to make you happy all the time?
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. The thing is, it's like this. It's the way we are choosing the path. No, I think when we have the bad times or the good times, we have these arguments and fight, but we try to. What I learned from my experience and life was to always try to remember the good things and forget the bad things and keep those good things in your mind and proceed.
Mm.
Because I think stress is something that comes from within you. Other people are not giving you stress. It's something you are generating yourself. If your
Okay,
mind is
can we
strong,
just dig into
yeah,
that? You mentioned that stress is something inside; it is not outside. Can you dig into that?
yeah, yeah. But I think it's like this. It's something that is generated by a person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not something that comes from others to you. It's something you generate yourself. Let's
But a
say,
lot of people say that my work environment is stressful, my boss is not listening to me, and my team is not connecting well. They don't understand what I say, and when I come back to my home and my spouse is not understanding me, they are not understanding that I'm having a tough day, so they are also trying to give all their problems onto me when I come home.
true.
So it is always outside, right? It is external that we get issues and problems
You're not
from external.
making it, but they might generate the stress. But the taking it into yourself is an option for you.
Are they generating the stress?
Again, what you think, I feel. Because the thing is, if you are saying your boss and your colleagues are generating stress for you, it could be two things. One thing, you're not planning your work correctly, or you're not completing the given allocated work on time.
Mm.
So you get over and you're stressful. I feel that is the way. And when at home, if it's stressful, it could be the reason you're not giving quality time to your loved ones to listen to them, spend time with them, and that's why it is stressful. And you need to communicate also. Now, if you are very tired, you need to tell your loved ones or anyone, I'm tired, give me a bit of time to rest. I'll come back and I'll spend time with you. That communication needs to happen, right? If you don't do that, naturally the stress will come. You are trying to please everyone. No?
Mm.
Please everyone. That's a point that I have learned like throughout
You
my
can't
life.
please everyone all the time.
Unless, oh yeah, and unless you're happy, you can't make others happy. You have to be happy.
Yeah, I think one of the things about what you mentioned, that specific area, is that we think that people pressure us, people give their problems to us. But as you correctly mentioned, the stress generated by that, which is a trigger, is something we do inside ourselves, right? So, for example, I'll tell you one story. I used to have this problem of, like, when driving on the road, I used to get very irritated and agitated when, people, cross me and do all this stupid stuff. I always wanted, I will shout at them because, to get away my frustration, but they don't, but they don't hear it, right? I'm just venting out my frustration. And one day I went on a pick me taxi. So this driver was particularly very peaceful. I mean, there was chaos on the road, but he never. Uh, I mean, it was like a 1 hour ride. He never got agitated for even a single time. So I asked him, "How do you do that?" Right? And I kind of, like, wanted to see how his mindset is. Like, I can imagine, like, from morning to evening that he will be driving in this traffic, and And I asked him, like, are you this calm all the time? And he said, yeah. And I said, how do you do that? And he says, that's the most important. That's what I'm saying. Like, you need to have your own internal framework. And he mentioned that he always look at vehicles and pedestrians as, like, for example, as objects coming into him. Right? For example, he sees a car, he doesn't see the person inside driving. He just sees an object that comes to him. That is the mental framework he has. And so when an object comes, he knows this is an object that is coming to him, so I have to be safe. I just have to maneuver my vehicle and go about in life. And he says that I'm not going to look into his eyes and give a look and, frustration. But I just look at it, and it is an object on my path, and I just leave it as it is. That is a framework, right? So he's not denying that there is a human driving a vehicle, but he's not getting that frustration into him. And he just sees it's like playing a video game, I guess. You just have these obstacles and issues, but you maneuver yourself with in the path of least resistance. And he has found that least resistance path, and he has no tension. Probably he has tension, but he's not making it something bigger than it something should be. Probably he has stress. I mean, obviously, the body gets tired and the mind gets tired. It's human. But he does not make it something, worse than what it is. It doesn't mean that outside world is getting better, but he has a framework of not adding something to it. And he knows that he has to go this ride, right? Might as well do it in peace, right? And that is good for you. I mean, we can always
And
say,
you're adding attachment to yourself. No, you're adding attachment. I
yeah,
mean, I mean, you can always go with in such a situation. These two shall pass, and also for a temporary, I mean, second or two of madness. I mean, madness or getting angry with someone could end up being a drastic issue for me.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, go to an argument and you might fight, and if that person has a weapon, he might hit you. It could go to that level. We have seen in
I mean,
everywhere that
in the
those,
road rage videos, right?
yeah, yeah, we have seen that. So what that 1 second can cause a lot of damage to you.
And
So
what happens is, like, road rage is because, like, the person who's driving has a head full of, like, issues that he's carrying throughout the day and the week, right? So he must be thinking about that, and then someone comes and do a irritating thing, and what you are trying to do is you are obviously trying to get away with that issue in your head, and you immediately find this person is a natural way to vent yourself. But when you keep repeating this pattern, what happens is that you don't know how to calm your mind, and your mind is all that you have, and the response patterns you have is need to come to a framework that works for you. So that taxi driver had a framework, and it works for him, and I could really see it. I mean, I could see the way that he's behaving, and it is working. You don't need to explain in words. That is why I asked him the question. So it doesn't mean that he won't be angry forever. He might get angry, but he has a framework that he can keep coming back into. So I started doing that, and I'm a better and calm person now when I'm driving. I usually hate driving. I always avoid driving in Colombo. But then again, when I do, I have that framework. And even not even when I'm driving, but in other areas as well, right? So you don't know what is going through in other person's mind. So they may be having a tough day, they may be having a tough time. So if you are trying to add into that with my stories and my narratives, I don't think anybody will be able to find a way to get out of the mess. So we carry our own burdens every day. So the more light we can tread, the more, I mean, in this world, everybody's asking, we need problem solvers. So probably start by looking at a framework where we can have lesser problems for ourselves. So then we can have the time and space you need to improve our own lives and the people around us. And as you mentioned, Shamindra, I haven't met any person who have figured it all. I never found a person who have figured it out.
Yeah, all in a discovery phase, right?
Yes.
Yeah, all in a discovery phase. That's the thing. That's the important thing to know. Because I think everyone, people should try to have that time and space to reflect and have a look on those kind of things and try to figure out those things. Because most of the time, what I've seen is many of our, humans, we think we live forever, and there's no, you know, we. I know it's more of a, I don't want to go for more to a religious point of view, but many of us, majority believe there's no afterlife, right? They think it's over from here, right? They don't believe in something like karma, right? Karma is something that is I think many religious teachings teach that, right? But people don't believe in that. But sometimes, with what they believe is they believe what Isaac Newton says. Every action has different reaction that uh, they know about that. But they should remember that about karma was taught even before Isaac Newton was born, right? So sometimes people try to believe things if they are proven scientifically, but these things also, I feel, but people, as they don't experience it firsthand, they don't want to talk about it. But we have seen it, right? When you are doing some actions, sometimes when you, let's say, when you hit a kid, right? You say a parent hits a son or daughter, they will react back to you. They will say angry, we are mad at you at that, and they will sometimes, if you are doing it constantly, they will forget their friends, their parents, and they will move on with their friends, or they will find different ways to find happiness because they know their parents are not loving them and all in you. Yeah. So you see, go get those results firsthand. What all these examples, what I want to say is people should believe that every action has a consequence, and if you reflect back on things about yourself and you try to do things that makes you happy and calm yourself to learn about yourself, that will help you in the long run, not only for yourself, even the person you are interacting with, because being calm and content sometimes and having a listening eye will help you go a long way, I feel, within this life, because we are always with chaos, as you said, news and everything that is disturbing our mind every day, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think, you mentioned an interesting, deeper question about karma, like, cause and effect, right? And a lot of people have a difficulty in understanding that. If you look into other aspects of it, like, rebirth, like, reincarnation, like, people have a tough time realizing that. I get it, because you can't see it, like, you can't feel it, right? Like, for example, like, if I ask you, who are you before this life? And Shamitra, do you know who you are going to become in the next life?
That's the thing.
Okay. So I think, yeah, that is why, because we are not 100% sure what we are talking about. And even though we feel it, it is very hard for people to relate it to it. One is like we want scientific evidence. And that is true. Like, you need to see it to really understand it. But then again, you can look at it in a data points in our life. Like, if you look at in a scientific manner, you can always see, like, instances where you have done good deeds. How was your mind? Sometimes people say that when they have done a good deed, like, for example, they have helped someone, They have given a dana, alms given. They have given a meal to what do you call it, elders home, that they feel like they are in heaven. Right. So the term I'm in heaven is like your mind is truly, truly in a peaceful mode, and you are happy, and you're kind of your vibe goes out to other people and it connects with other people. Right. So if karma is like you're looking at the cause and effect, that you want to do good things and good things happen to you, you need to have a data point of that. So the other data point is when you are feeling miserable, when you are feeling shitty and you want to hit someone, you are angry. Let's say you're angry for 1 hour. If you can have the data points, I don't know whether Apple Watch provides it. Before technology came in, you always have this self-reflection points. You always have it even now, but you need to give the space to your mind, right? So one of the things that a good framework is that I heard it from Ajahn Chah. He's a famous monk from Thailand. What he said is like, when you are angry, have a clock in front of you, right? Try to see how long you can be angry. Let's say 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes. Okay, the next time you're angry, you always go back to the clock and see how long you can be angry, whether you can beat your own record. And so you are testing and you are experiment with yourself, how long you can be angry. And when you do that, you understand that you can easily get out of anger when you have that kind of a framework. I mean, everybody knows being angry is not going to help anyone. It is going to make you so much miserable. But we keep on doing it because we think that it is a right for us to do, because others are always doing crazy things. But no matter how many quotes you hear about anger, there are quotes like anger is like holding on to a hot uh, hot rod and trying to
Yeah,
throw it at someone. Yeah, I mean, you will be hurt the first. Probably the other person is not going to hurt.
actually, no, not from a quote point of view. From a philosophy point of view, what I have also learned is that's how I calm myself as well. When I get angry, I try to go to a state. If I get angry, the one who's getting burned is me,
Yeah,
not them.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Calm myself down and then reflect back. That's how I try to calm myself when I go to that state. We have to be open that we are normal human beings. Anger is something that will not go away from us.
Yeah, it makes sense on paper, but when we are angry,
Yeah,
we try to justify it with, that person is wrong. How can they do it to me?
yeah,
And
yeah.
this system does not work. You go into a government
You
institution.
have to understand why they are coming. Again, that reason point comes from Buddhism point of view. As if you check out the reason why that person is angry and try to help to cure that reason,
Yeah,
everything will calm down. Like,
you don't need to look at it in a Buddhism framework either. You can have a very, very simple framework that works for you. Like, for example, you go into a government institute and you don't get any.
worst possible thing.
Yeah, you don't get anything done, right? And it probably take like 1 hour, a whole day. I mean, you get frustrated because you have so many other things to do, and these people are not responding to me, and you go in berserk. Now, that is because, like a simple framework, you don't need any religious or philosophical framework here. So, am I the only person who is getting this irritating feeling? So there is a system in place. Governments need to have systems, right? Checks and balances they need to have. You can't just offer services on its own. So in Sri Lanka, when you go into that, you know that you are going to face this bureaucracy when you're going there. But once you are there, I'm expecting it to be different. So basically, I'm not facing the reality. So I'm not facing the reality. I'm just trying to figure out that I should be served better. So if I'm served better, I will be happy. If I'm not served well, I will be angry. But I already knew that, this place is not giving a speedy service. So what happens here is that when I say, I used to have that, I still have a little, like I forget that, these places are like that. But we need to understand that when we don't acknowledge the reality, we tend to, do harm for ourselves. Like, if the anger and the frustration is justifiable, yes, but does it help? Does it make those people do work? I don't know. People say, like, I have, blackguarded all these people and I gave a good whack, and, my work was done within, like, 5 minutes. And there are stories like that. And we tend to think that we need to be angry all the time to get things done. Yeah. So, but then again, like, yeah. So we all know basically that what anger is, and it does not help me, but we keep on doing that, right? And because we justify it, and we keep doing the pattern. And that is why I always mention that we need a internal framework for our happiness. And people think it is happiness, and I usually believe it's not the happiness, because happiness is, like, distorted in value right now. And theoretically speaking, you can't be happy all the time. The thing is, like, something called happiness exists because there is suffering, and otherwise you won't say that there is happiness, right? You don't have to seek
I
happiness.
no, but don't you think that all this? I believe humans are emotional freaks, right? Something that theory is there in my mind that I feel. Do you think attachment is the cause for all those sort of things? And if you slowly try to remove that, I know you can't completely remove it, but if you remove those attachments, remove expectations, those kind of things, if you slowly try to reduce, you can't remove it. If you try to reduce those things, you will be in a much happier place and in a more calmer state of mind. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, define me what you mean by attachment.
Attachment is again is expectation, right? So for example, I give you a very simple example what I faced a few weeks back. I had a queue. There was a queue to buy, there was a huge queue that I had to attend, right, for some work. And people were jumping the queue, and they were arguing that I was first, I was here. you know you see the normal, Telugu. You remember, no, what we happened? I mean, sorry, I using those words. I mean that all those fuel queues we faced, right? So why are we doing that, right? Why we are in the queue? Why can't we stay? But it could be one few reasons. One thing, you could be getting late to work. Another thing, you don't want to stay there because you want to be the first to take something, and you have other commitments, right? And you expect others to be good as you. Maybe you are also not good, but you feel majority should be like me. That is expectation, right? If you believe that every human, because for a few years I had in the past, there with many personalities, what we the common norm was humans are animals in a different way. A bit of the mind is a bit better, not always I think, but from a thinking point of view, we have the thinking power. But humans are also animals, right? But that nature of humans come out when they are stressed out, and when they say they want attachments, and they try to that animal part comes out without unknowingly that happens, right?
Mm.
Time is an issue, attachment is an issue. So those are things. Sometimes when you're pressure, stress, all these things, and that's why I call we are emotional freaks. Those expectations bring out the animal of us, and then we tend to get to the other state of minds. That's why I'm telling that attachment is some most of the time is an expectation that we are trying to achieve. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The definition of attachment, but I think Where should I start this? We tend to think that people are attached, people are showing signs of animals, and they don't even have the courtesy and decency to be in this line properly, queue up properly. And we tend to think that we are better than them, right?
Yeah.
I'm better, I'm well mannered, and I have a better viewpoint of life. That's how we think, right? But since we are talking about attachment is something that keeps us going. If not for the attachment, we'll not be doing the stuff that we do right now. Going for work, raising a family, right? Being social. We will not want to be that if we don't have attachments. And if I say that I don't have attachment, that is a huge lie. And those attachments are always in your mind, not to be seen to the outside world. So the attachment to many things that we do, right? In workplace, there are so many frustrations for people because people attach to their work, their function. And sometimes I hear people say, like, why should I expose my data? My data, right? So
Correct, correct, correct.
the data that you analyze becomes my data. So if there is a process improvement that can be done by exposing and making your data visible, people will say, it's my data. It is the fear of that if I expose and, make my data visible, I will not be important to this organization. Okay. So that is why people are so afraid of digital transformation. To be digital, that is why people are so afraid. There is a huge fear that I will be exposed, that I will be redundant in workplaces.
Correct, correct.
And so they think my function is my function. If we try to blame them because, my goodness, the way they think, and I used to reflect, I used to think like that as well. And in some places, I still do. So this attachment is a very normal thing for a person. And this attachment is why this world is keep on moving. Okay? But this attachment is not to the world to be saving. Even I, as a person, do not know how much attached I am because I justify my attachment, but I tend to criticize other people's attachments. Okay, very simple thing is when I was 25, I used to think my taste in music is very sophisticated. Okay, so I thought, like, I'm listening to one of the greatest music artists in the world. I have a taste ranging from classical to classic rock, and I can listen to any music. So I was like, I tend to look down upon people who will be, listening to, like, bus songs. Why are these people are listening to this crap? And now I know I was stupid. But those data points comes to you when you have deeper relationship with people, not to put them down. And you always ask the question, like, why do people? I'm getting this simple scenario, like, why do people like those music? What makes them like this music? You have a conversation with them, very open conversation without any judgments, and you tend to see a different beautiful side for them. All right. Very simple thing. I go into organizations and elder people like me now criticize the younger generation, saying that, they are not responsive. Okay. Their taste in music and all this entertainment is very, rubbish. Every time I hear it, I always remember what my father said to me, like when I was young. You are listening to very crude music. This is not music. ABBA and Boney M was music. So this is the generational gap we need to understand. As we get older, we see the world differently, and our judgments change. But these judgments keeps us away from having a good life, right? Because I always think, like, my attachment is way more better than your attachment. And that is why in social media, people try to say that, it's subtle. Like, you want to say that I'm living the better life. My thinking is better than you. I'm going to the better vacation. You might have gone to the same place, but I enjoyed it more than you. I saw the same sunset, but I have the best picture of it.
You see, because we want to get highlighted. I mean, that's a huge issue.
It is not huge, it is just the human nature.
Yeah, we want to be better than others.
I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, if we were not like that, the economies will collapse. I mean, you can't have an economy if people are saying that, I'm satisfied, I'm contented. Like, nobody will want to do anything. Nobody will want any promotions. I don't want a promotion, you take it. Have you seen a person like that?
True.
So this attachment is a funny thing. It is good for me to have it, but it is not good for others to have it. So the level of attachment and the degree of commitment you have for it differs to person. And if I go on attaching, if I go on judging people for the choices that they make, I only get miserable. So the best thing that you can do is to look at yourself, look at the attachments you have, I have, right? That is when I understand I'm no different from other people. It's just that probably, sometimes better than, I mean, who's saying that I'm better than the other? So the problem with this kind of analysis that we do is that we want to feel better. We want to be, I don't know, as you mentioned, it's always in us to feel better, to show better. And that is why we have not realized that there is something called the inner peace that we can seek out. So that is why I say happiness is a very, I don't know, like, used in a very different manner, used in a very commercial purposes right now. And also, if you look at it philosophically, happiness is something that is in between two places of sadness or suffering. If it is not sandwiched between two instances of suffering, you can't have happiness. Right? Happiness exists because there are two instances of suffering sandwiched in between it. That is why you go to a movie, you have this high expectation, and once it is over, right? Probably you didn't like it much, or probably you liked it a lot. Even
What a waste of money.
yeah. If it is bad, if it is good, like you may become, and I would have liked this character to do that, this character to do this.
You're not satisfied,
You're
right?
not satisfied.
You're not satisfied.
And then you need the sequel, right? Part 2 and part 3.
Then when you come there, first one was better.
Yes. And it's obvious, right? Because the novelty is gone, right? The most creative aspect of that is gone.
Bottom line is, you are never happy.
You are never happy.
You have to understand that. You are never happy.
Yeah. So that is the first realization. And then what you can do is, like, so what should I strive for? That is where I've always want to get into this, like, I put the happiness seeking part away and started seeking peace, the inner peace, right? Just like the Kung Fu Panda, that is the most popular thing, and it has a lot of good insights as well. So the inner peace is something that you can create for yourself. And it doesn't matter, what the outside world is giving you. In fact, for a person who is tuned to inner peace, always try to see, what is happening to you as data points. I'll give you a good example what happened to me. So about a month ago, I had a very tough situation. Like, I did not know what to do about it. But I knew it was silly because it is something that I'm taking something small, you know, as a out of proportion. I'm blowing it out of proportion. But I wanted to hang on to it because I have all this justification. When I reflect on it now, it seems very silly, but at that moment, it seemed everything for me. Like, it was everything for me. I wanted to figure it out. I wanted to, do something. I wanted to react to it. So, funnily, I remembered that I have a journal, that I have a digital journal. All right. So, for about 5 months, I didn't get back to it. But I remembered that I have this journal and I should go back to it. I wanted to go back to it to write, but instead of writing, I went back to my previous entries. So this is 2024, and I went back and saw that there were entries from 2014 as well. So 10 years of data, 10 years of feelings, 10 years of how I felt, 10 years of, I don't know, 10 years of rough patches, because I tend to get into journaling when I'm feeling down. But when I'm feeling up, there are very limited number of entries. So then I
So
figured,
you're doing self-reflections basically,
yeah,
self-reflection.
when I'm down.
And
So this is the
yes,
most important part, right? So when I'm down, I write. But when I'm feeling happy, I don't write because I don't have the need to write it down because I
need
want to
to write.
savor, right? But those data points showed me from 2014 to 2024, I had been in that exact same trigger situation probably about 20. But every time I have that kind of a trigger happens, it feels new to me. And I realize this has to stop.
Taken any action to it, right? You're saying.
Exactly. Right. So instead of writing it down this time, I went back to those journal entries and figured out what triggered it. You know, what are the responses I have made, whether I have become better at it. And I found out I'm not. So I started reflecting, sitting down, I started reflecting, okay, this is what happens. This is a pattern, right? So these are just thoughts that comes into my mind. And those thoughts came in, I gave them so much value, but then they disappeared every time. So that is the truth. So it cannot be otherwise because I have the data points. But imagine I did not have the data points, I would have kept on doing it again and again. So that is why it is important to have your personal data points, not some celebrity says, not to try and do some role model says, because their lives are very different. That is why you need to have your own data points. And those data points, when I saw that, I couldn't believe that I have been doing it for a long, long time. So that realization, it is very hard, Chandra. It's very suffocating to look at it because you feel as if those are my feelings. The moment you realize, okay, these are just data points, these were just thoughts that came out of nowhere and vanished, right? So then you start realizing that what you mentioned, the attachment to these thoughts as mine. Like I have this attachment to the data in my workplace. I have attachment to the data, which is my thoughts my feelings. So the attachment I have is what we call the character. What a personality. Look at that personality. That's why we say, because I have attached so much weight into my thoughts, perceptions, and feelings. And the more attachment I have, it has become very difficult for me to be peaceful. So that is my take on attachments. Attachments,
I mean, you have to keep a small circle, right? You have to keep a small circle with the people that you want to interact to, have that. Because again,
not necessarily,
the same thing.
Chamendra. I
No,
used to think that, I used to think that I actually do it. I will be very honest. When you want to create the space, right, you need to reduce the number of interactions you have. That is true. Then only that you can see your mind, the tricks the mind plays on you. But it doesn't mean that you have to have a limited relationships, right? Have a limited number of people who would make you happy. That is another trap, right? So once that happens, let's say you have like limited number of people in your circle and you are very happy because they are serving you well, they are taking care of you, and then suddenly they have different priorities and they move on with their lives. And then what happens? Because the attachment you had to them is going to make you miserable. So it is not the number of people. I'm telling you this in a very overall manner, but for someone to understand that, I think you need to have that kind of personal space to you, right? Only when you have that personal space, you can see this stuff. It is our response to the relationship that we have that we become needy, whether we become needy. We want people to be responsible and give response to us all the time. Those are the attachment I generate within myself because people are battling their own wars. They have their own struggles. And if we assume that people should be responding to us all the time, that is where the suffering happens. That is why we are very elated, like, perfect example. As I am now having conversations with people who are 55 older, I see they have this notion of like, we have done all these things to these people, my children and my relatives, and they no longer look at me, take care of me. What's that? So basically, I'm helping someone or I'm having a relationship because I think that when I'm older, somebody has to take care of me. And we don't realize that they have their own lives. And the question I asked is like, what is stopping me from being like? And I kind of thought that I kind of realized I'm also becoming that. But what should I do to not to become that? Because that is a very miserable place to be, right? Try to see like, everybody has to drop everything and serve me. And I'm seeing that in a lot of Sri Lankan elder generation. Okay. So what can I do to not to be like that? And that is a good trigger point, and that is a good framework you can have. So in that framework, you need to be happy with yourself. And you can't be always happy. That is why you need to find peace within yourself. When you are peaceful, you don't expect much from the world. I'm not saying I can't expect anything from the world because I'm reliant on teams I work with and the family I'm with. I have all those responsibilities and also I'm dependent on them. but it doesn't go into a level of extent that I become a nuisance to them. I become a problematic to them, right? I think that is where peace is very important right now. Try to find out how can I become peaceful is a human right. It is not something that we can't do. So the more you become peaceful, the more you can help others. And people think that we have to, be less self-conscious and help others. And I've seen people who are like that, but they are no different than other people. If you are not satisfied, contented, and peaceful, you are trying to show that you are helping others, but it is not actually the case, right? Only if you are peaceful inside, you can help others in a way that you're not expecting from others. Of course, I mean, when they are helping me, I will be embracing them. Like, I will be happy. I will be very satisfied that, I have a good network and good people like this. Now I will receive it, and I will be not like, I don't want your support. That's stupid. You need to have that connection. But even if you're not getting that, you should be able to understand that and give that space to other people. That is where your peace comes in, not the other way around. And that is why we have all these grudges. I'm not immune to that either, Chamindra, right? So it is very easy to say this, like, I may sound like, profound.
Doing it is the difficult part.
Exactly. I struggle. I struggle and struggle and struggle doing that on a daily basis.
I think what
But
you need to do is just few things. I mean, every day we are talking about the rat race, and I think what we should do is we should take a reflect time every day, each day at least. Before you go to sleep, take some time off and see where I went wrong, where are things I can improve. Have I made myself happy?
mm,
Right. So always making others happy. What we are doing is most of the time each day is making others happy. I feel we are trying to do that. We are not trying to make ourselves happy. True, we will watch a cricket match or anything, try to give that small happiness to ourselves by watching that.
mm.
But most of the time it gives us chills and madness, other than happiness. That's another story to talk about. But what I'm saying is, have you done something to make yourself happy? Having a small kind of, having a small meal that makes you happy, right? That small things drives you and give you the fuel to be happy, do the race in a more worthwhile and in a what's this word, in a more sustainable way.
Mm.
Otherwise you will break down, and you sometimes I do only think to others. I have not done anything to myself, and you live a life of regrets, I feel. What do you think? I go in the same thinking page. I'm just sharing that what I feel is the
Yeah,
best way to do.
yeah. I mean, whatever that works for you, right?
Yeah, correct.
Only you know that whether this framework works for me or not, right? Probably I'm trying to impress someone and tell that, there was this interesting conversation in an organization that I work in. Like, they used to have this interesting thing called 5 a.m. club, right? So, subscribing to that, like, getting everybody in the team to wake up at 5 a.m. and do that thing. So many people have done it to, like, impress the boss or someone, but they were not, early wakers. Some of them were very good at working into late nights, but they had to do it because they have to, like, impress someone. And also the people who were pressurizing also tend to think like people can be, boxed into, very neat labels, like, everybody can wake up at 5 a.m. And that's stupid. Different people are different. What you have to do is to give the space for people to figure out where they are good at, where their flow state is, like where they are really optimal, right? And since people don't have that time, everybody wants to, like, put into this generic labels like 5 a.m. club and I don't know, some other marketing thing, and try to get people to get into that and feel productive and optimized and all these language that we use. But I believe people are very creative when they find out, where they can be themselves, where they can be find their own space, and it is different from each and every person. So as managers, the most important thing with all this technology coming in the organization, that to give that space to humans, and we tend to forget that it is a human that we are working with. So to create that space, you need to have a very peaceful mind, and we can't be triggered by all the external inputs that comes to ours. So that is where, like, meditation is very important for a person to try to find yourself, try to find what is working for me. How the mind is tricking me. The funny thing is, like, when people say that things are not going right, I always ask, like, when you were 16, right, probably you had dreams, and people start saying, oh, I wanted to do this, I got that, I wanted to do that, I got it. And I ask them, so why aren't you happy? So if you had these 1, 2, 3 things you wanted to do in life, and now you have it, why aren't you happy? Philosophically, happiness is not 100% state that you can have always. So
You will always go for another thing, right? Yeah,
that
you.
is why when you seek happiness, you are always miserable. So that is philosophical. The answer to that is try to find inner peace. Inner
That's
peace,
where you. That's where your real happiness lies.
yeah. I mean, for me at least.
If you need to do that self-reflection, I think. Okay, Isra, I mean, we can talk about this. All day. But I mean, thank you so much for sharing your ideas and thoughts today. I mean, something to reflect back. I mean, this is also a very different kind of chat for myself as well, because I've been talking a lot of theoretical stuff when it comes to business, technology, IT, business analysis, a lot of things. But doing the self reflection of a chat does really help. I mean, to anyone who's watching this, I'm suggesting you to have a look at this and watch this. Take something back. I mean, we have time to watch other videos. On many things. I'm not just promoting myself. I'm just asking you. Just have a listen. Sometimes we need to reflect back and learn things from things in a different point of view. Look at things differently. That's what you mean as well, no? It's what
Yeah.
I mean. You have to think differently and look at things differently. That way you will do that self-reflection, and in the end you will become a better human being. Take that animal instincts out of yourself and be a better human being, and that will help not only you but all the loved ones and the people you are interacting with. Thank you, Isra, for taking your time today on a Sunday as well. But it has been a very nice day conversation with you, and I've been really privileged and so happy and honored to have you on my podcast. And hopefully, I will be able to have you again in another episode of Chat with Chamindra. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chamindra, for having me. All the best with your podcast. I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Okay, and wish you all the very best.
Bye, Chamindra.
Yes, take care. Bye. Bye.